All right, welcome back to ABA exam review and the continuation of our BCBA mock exam 6, where we're going to the next set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. Check out behavioranalyststudy.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack and all of our other practice exams. As always, when you pass, please let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. 39. You, a behavior analyst, believe that a multiple stimulus with replacement preference assessment would best serve your client's needs. You present apples, chocolate, carrots, and celery to the client. What answer choice best describes what should happen next? Now, the multiple stimulus with replacement, probably the most understood preference assessment. And when we think about multiple stimulus preference assessments, we're typically thinking 3 or more items. We have our single choice, we have 1 item. Paired choice, we have 2. Multiple stimulus, 3 or more. In this case, we're going to do a with replacement with apples, chocolate, and carrots. And the question wants to know what should happen next. So you've laid out all these items in front of your client. What should ideally happen next in a multiple stimulus with replacement assessment? A, you then ask the client to rank each item 1 to 4 from their favorite to least favorite, removing items as they are chosen. Now that's no multiple stimulus assessment we run, right? We run with replacement or without, but we're not sitting there asking the client to rank them and they're removing items as they're chosen. So A is not it. B, as the client picks 1 item, remove that item and replace it with another item. Now, when we're talking about multiple stimulus with replacement, the confusion comes in with the item that is chosen. And the item that is chosen is actually the item that is put back. It's the one that is replaced in the array of items. What you do is you take all the other unchosen items and put new items in their place. And that's where the confusion occurs. So we're not going to replace the item that's chosen. What we're going to do is when an item is selected, place that item back and remove all the other items, putting new items in their place. That's what we're looking for with the multiple stimulus with replacement. So if the apples are chosen, you would put the apple back and replace chocolate, carrots, and celery, right? That will be the with replacement. And then D, you ideally at least want 5 items if you're conducting a multiple stimulus with replacement. So add 1 item first. No, not necessarily. You want multiple stimuli, obviously, because it's a multiple stimulus with replacement, but there is no 5-item requirement. So what should happen next? When an item is selected, you should then place that item back and remove all the other items, putting new items in their place. 40, Juan is developing an intervention for one of his clients. The client is engaging in hitting, kicking, and screaming at different points throughout the day. Juan wants to use the same intervention for each behavior, but would like to look at each behavior separately. What design might work best? Now immediately, right? Well, the question is asking about design, so we're thinking experimental design. But immediately, what jumps out at me is he wants to use the same intervention, but wants to look at each behavior separately. What's going to be the best way to do that? I've got a single intervention that I'm trying to use for multiple behaviors because I've got hitting, kicking, and screaming. And they're happening at different points during the day. So what design might work best? AB reversal design. Well, with an AB design, what are we doing? We've got our baseline intervention. Back to baseline, same intervention. But are we getting an opportunity with an AB reversal design to look at hitting, kicking, and screaming separately? We would really need 3 different AB reversal designs. Is there a better way to go about doing that? What about B, a changing criterion design? Well, we're not really sure what the goal is here, right? Maybe we can assume he wants to reduce each of these, but again, it doesn't say specifically what his goal is. In addition, a changing criterion design for multiple behaviors would involve 3 separate criterion designs. Again, is there a better way to do that? What about a multi-element design? With a multi-element design or an alternating treatment design, we would want more than 1 intervention. Juan wants to use the same intervention. So if we look at D, a multiple baseline design, that's just going to be a better approach than the reversal designs and the changing criterion designs, because we can have the same intervention across all the different behaviors. And at the same time, we can start to see, well, is my intervention for hitting affecting kicking or screaming? So multiple baseline design across behaviors is probably the best design given the information. 41, the behavior analyst is conducting a functional analysis to determine the function of a client's behavior that looks like rubbing their hand on their arm. The behavior analyst sits with the client, asks the client to play Uno, and removes Uno if rubbing is observed. What is the function of the behavior? All right, be careful here. Question is asking about the function of the behavior. And we know the behavior analyst is conducting a functional analysis to determine the function of rubbing hand on arm. So what condition is the analyst in first? And when we're talking functional analyses, always think, what condition am I in, right? Is it a alone condition, escape condition, so on and so forth? Well, the behavior analyst sits with the client, asks the client to play Uno, removes Uno if rubbing is observed. So they're allowing what? Allowing, assumingly, the client to escape Uno if they rub their hand on their arm. But do we know the results? No. Do we know the results of the other conditions? No. So we might know what condition this one is, but in no part of this question do we have any information on what the function is. Just because the analyst is in this particular condition of the functional analysis doesn't mean that is the function. In a functional analysis, ideally, you should engage in all the conditions, right? So they shouldn't stop at escape. They should do attention, automatic, so on and so forth. And since we only see one condition and we don't know the results, there's no way to know the function of the behavior. So it's not escape, we can't be sure. It's not attention, we can't be sure. It's not automatic, we can't be sure. Really, we are unable to determine the function. 42, a new client's mother says the client engages in headbanging behavior when given a receptive instruction. A functional behavior assessment must be done as this client is brand new. The behavior is serious and impedes the child's ability to participate at school. What answer choices best describes the approach that should be taken during the FBA? Now, during a functional behavior assessment, what are we doing? Well, ideally, we're going to take some sort of interview, right? We're trying to get an idea of behaviors. Then, obviously, we're going to do some direct observation. Direct observation is ideal. And if we have time, we can do a functional analysis. In this case, we've got a client engaging in headbanging behavior, and the behavior is serious and impedes the child's ability to participate in school. So very important that we get this done pretty rapidly and get a good idea of why this behavior is occurring. The functional behavior assessment is there to give us an idea of why the behavior occurs. That's why we do it. So what approach should we take? A preference assessment should be conducted first to identify potential reinforcers. Well, at some point, we will conduct a preference assessment, but is that going to give us an idea of why headbanging is occurring? No, it's not going to help us in this situation. B, a BAB design should be used so that treatment can start immediately due to the serious nature of the behavior. Now, if we're going to use this type of withdrawal design, then you probably should use a BAB design, right? Because we're starting with the intervention. But we have no intervention. We don't even know why the behavior is occurring. B is getting ahead of ourselves. C, direct observation of the behavior should occur and data collection should start as soon as possible. Yes, we need to start taking data rapidly. We need some direct observation. We need to start identifying antecedents, consequences, and figuring out why is this behavior occurring. So far, C looks best. D, a scatter plot analysis should start the FBA. This will lead to an identification of patterns in the problem behavior. Well, scatter plot analysis has its place. It's very effective for identifying when behavior occurs, right? If we're looking at specific times throughout the day, but it's not necessarily giving us the why. And what we need to know right now is the why. Our FBA needs to help us get to why is this behavior occurring? The answer choice that's going to get us closer to why is going to be C. Direct observation of the behavior should occur and data collection should start as soon as possible. 43. A consultant is conducting an ecological assessment of the workplace at a small digital agency. The consultant wants to rely heavily on anecdotal observation as his means of data collection. During the observation, he overhears several employees complaining about their boss. Which of the following answer choices best describes anecdotal data collection? Anecdotal data collection is the focus here. And what is an anecdote? An anecdote's a story. It's an opinion. It's a subjective observation. When I'm giving anecdotes, I'm telling stories about what I saw, what I did, all from my perspective. And anecdotes have their time and place because sometimes we can't be there and we need anecdotes. So this consultant says, I want to use anecdotal observation as my means of data collection. So he's doing an ecological assessment, meaning he's just walking around the environment. But during the observation, during the assessment, he's hearing all these employees complain about their boss. So if he wants to collect data or anecdotal data on this, what's going to be best? What answer choice best describes this situation? A, the consultant records each antecedent and consequence at the time of the complaints and compares them. Remember, anecdotal data is the person's opinion or story of what happened. The consultant is not sitting there taking ABC data on the complaints. He wants anecdotes. B, the consultant conducts structured interviews with each employee that complained and codes the interviews afterwards. Okay, he's going to sit down, tell me what happened. You're complaining, tell me about it. Now we're getting anecdotes. Well, my boss sent me a mean email, they sent me a mean text, they want me to work Saturday. Now we're getting these anecdotes of why it's happening, or there's stories of why it's happening. C, the consultant uses a timesheet to mark down when each complaint occurred. Awfully close to a scatter plot, right? Not stories, there's no anecdotes in C. And D, the consultant uses a frequency counter to accurately assess how often complaints occur. Well, D is just straight up continuous measurement, right? We're using a frequency counter. Anecdotes, when we're getting stories and opinions and observations from the people who it's happening to, who saw it, is going to be best served by B. The consultant conducts structured interviews with each employee that complained and codes the interviews afterwards. 44, Carmen is working double time to try and cover all the orders at his restaurant in Chicago. Each time he calls out an order, his employees respond, yes, chef. If he doesn't hear someone respond, he says to them, did you not hear me? When Carmen says, did you not hear me? What verbal operant does that represent? All right, a good reminder from this question that when we've got a behavior question, we need to identify what is the question specifically asking about. Because there's a couple of things going on in this question, right? This question wants to know about, did you not hear me? Because if we look at the beginning, Carmen's working double time. He calls out an order. His employees respond, yes, chef. So that's a verbal exchange there. We're not worried about that one, though. We're worried about the did you not hear me? And so when we're identifying the verbal operant, we need to identify what evoked it first, because that's going to get us closest to the answer. And then if we still haven't figured it out, then we could talk about formal similarity, reinforcement, that sort of thing. So let's just start, what evoked this? Well, Carmen didn't hear someone respond. So no noise. So a nonverbal stimulus evoked it, or a motivating operation evoked, did you not hear me? And so we need to eliminate all the verbal operants evoked by verbal SDs, like verbals and echoics. Now we have to start thinking about mands and tacts. Well, is Carmen tacting anything, or is he manding? Well, he is manding, right? Because he's requesting information. Did you not hear me? It's a mand evoked by the non-response. Carmen was deprived the response. It evoked, did you not hear me? What verbal operant does that represent? A, an interverbal. One interverbal is revoked by a verbal SD. This was not, so it can't be that. Same with an echoic. And an echoic has point-to-point and formal similarity, right? And we don't have that here. There's no response. Nothing, there's no verbal SD evoking this response. Verbal prompt, be careful. Verbal prompt is not a verbal operant, so don't go too quick and rush, right? You pick verbal prompt. Doesn't make sense here. And then D, mand. It is a mand. Carmen is looking for information, evoked by the MO, the deprivation of the response, right? And Carmen says, did you not hear me? Which is manding for information. 45. Alan is teaching a class that is part of the Behavior Analyst course sequence. One of his students raises their hand and says, I have a client who has no interest in anything we give him. He just sits there and refuses to work. What goal of science does this most resemble? All right, this is option A on or A1, 1A on the task list, right? What are our goals of science? Description, prediction, control. Description says what? Description, exactly what it says, right? We are just describing what we see. Nothing more, nothing less. Prediction, we're making hypotheses. We're drawing correlations between things we see. Control, we're now manipulating and experimenting things we see to try and gain functional control over situations. In this case, the student is doing what? Well, he's just saying, I have a client who has no interest in anything we give him. This then refuses to work. Is he making hypotheses? No. Is he manipulating anything? No. He's just describing what happened. So what goal of science does the most resemble? Well, A, description. Prediction would be he sits there and refuses to work. This is what happens right before. I believe there's a correlation. Control would be he sits there and refuses to work. So I introduce an intervention. This is what happened to the behavior, experimentation, so on and so forth. We're not to that point. He's simply describing what occurred. And then 46, pretty straightforward question. Behavior technicians are typically involved in what aspect of behavior science? You've got to learn to distinguish between the different aspects of behavior science: behaviorism, experimental analysis, applied behavior analysis, and practice guided by behavior analysis. And we're specifically looking at behavior technicians, who are people in the field, right? They're implementing all day. So what aspect of behavior science are they typically involved in? Well, behaviorism is the philosophy, right? It's the guiding theory. So when we talk about radical behaviorism, that is our guiding theory. That's our philosophy. Technicians aren't typically involved in that piece. Experimental analysis of behavior is when behavioral experiments are done on animals typically, or in control settings. It's not applied, meaning we're not going into C, applied behavior analysis, and now taking these experiments and using them on humans. Practice guided by behavior analysis does what? Well, it takes the results of EAB and ABA and then puts them into practice. Behavior technicians are the ones who do that. They take our results of our ABA experiments and we put them into practice. So technicians are typically the ones engaged in practice guided by behavior analysis. Awesome. Thanks for watching. Check out behavioranalyststudy.com. Please subscribe on YouTube. As always, let us know when you pass so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. See you soon.